Welcome to this session. We will do a technical journey into the heart of Santa's workshop. We will have a practical look at Microsoft 365 and its robust security features, and we will look at how this is protecting all the secrets here at the North Pole. I am Skotheimsvik. I will be your technical elf supervisor and the host in this episode. I will do a rig rundown for you now, looking at how data is secured and flowing between the departments at Santa's factory. So are you ready for this magical experience? So the first thing first, the magical wish lists. They are essential for the existence of Santa's factory here at the North Pole. Without the wish lists, there will be no factory here. They are the magic fuel for this adventure. It's therefore important to handle this accordingly. And this all happens in the mailroom. At the mailroom department, they are managing all wish lists arriving on paper and digitally. So let's look at some technical details in this setup. I guess that's why you are here, isn't it? So I will be starting by signing into the tenant. And as you can see, I have got a branded tenant here, and that's like an idea I got from last year's episode. So you can look into that one and see how you can brand your tenant. Alright, I'm in here. So the first thing first, the mailbox. So this is the shared mailbox where all wish lists from all over the world are arriving into Santa's factory. And for every email arriving in this mailbox, I have some automation, and this is done in Power Automate. I have my flow here called Santa's Mail Handler. And if I look into this, it will take every email arriving and it will create a file out of the attachment and put it in a SharePoint site before the email is deleted. So if you look into SharePoint, I have this Santa's mailroom. This is a separate mailroom where all the emails are stored, or all the wish lists are stored. So this happens to all digital emails getting into Santa's factory with wish lists from kids all around the world. So if I take a look in that SharePoint site, I'll click on it and I go to documents, I will see that some wish list has already gotten in here. That's perfect. It's working like a charm. So what about all the wish lists coming on paper-based? Let's look at how we deal with those. So the paper-based wish lists, they are also handled by the mailroom department. And we have some special blind and illiterate elves feeding these wish lists into the hypermodern secure wishlist scanner in Santa's factory. And all of these scanned documents, they are being sent automatically to that shared mailbox where the flow is picking it up and putting it into the SharePoint site. Now this might sound like witchcraft, but it is actually documented, so you can do it yourself. You can find it at this blog. So just to wrap this process all up, we have these elves as part of the paper-based mailbox flow, and we have the digital emails all arriving in the same mailbox on the Exchange server. And then we have some automation pulling all the attachments into this SharePoint site. And that library with all the wish lists is like a central part of the complete factory here at the North Pole. So now we need to make sure that this site is secure. And we can use authentication strength and conditional access using or requiring strong auth. And we can put retention policies defining the storage time at this SharePoint site. So let's dive into those details now. So for the technical details, I'm in the Purview portal now, and I'm looking at information protection labels. And here I have created a specific label for this purpose, the Santa's Factory of Excellence label. So if I should look into the details here, going next here, and I see that this is for groups and sites. I created this label for groups and sites, and by jumping down here I find that I have tagged this label for conditional access to protect it. And I'm using an authentication context for this purpose. So I marked this sensitivity label with the wishlist access authentication context. So if I now move to the Enter Admin Center, and I will look under Protection, where I find the conditional access blade, and here I find authentication context, and I have created one authentication context named C1 wishlist access, and I can look into the details for this one, and I see that it's only a name and a description. It's nothing more than that. So this is practically a label which I am labeling my sensitivity label with. I'm labeling a label with a label. How cool is that? And the C1 is just a reference to the ID. I have 25 IDs to use, and this one is the first one in this tenant. So this authentication context, which the label is labeled with. So if I now navigate to the conditional access blade again and look at policies, I see I have created one policy for authentication context with the wishlist access in its name. So if I look into this policy, I see that I am targeting authentication context, and I'm targeting this specific wishlist access context. And now I can set the grant type here, and I'm now requiring authentication strength, and I have created one specific authentication strength for this, and I named it Santa's Factory. So if I navigate, I'm still in the conditional access blade, and I navigate to the authentication strength blade. There I see I have Santa's Factory, and this one is requiring FIDO2 security key. So in practice, this means my sensitivity label is using authentication context named wishlist access. This one is being targeted by this conditional access policy, and this one says it should use this authentication strength, and the authentication strength says it should use the FIDO2 security key. Let's now add this one to the SharePoint site. So I am in the SharePoint Admin Center. I find my active sites, and I find Santa's mailroom. I'm looking into this, and I'm going to settings, and here I have sensitivity labels. Now I find my Santa's Factory Excellence, which I just created, and I save this one. And there I go. Now I have the sensitivity label set on this SharePoint site. Before I got to this point, I had to do some configuration in my tenant. My colleague Nikki Chappell has a great post on this one, and you can read it by following the QR code above. And I promise you, this QR code is it's not a scam. You can safely use it. Okay, so now I want to test this setting. So I'm looking at the Santa's mailroom here. I'll look at membership, and who's member? Alex Wilbur. He has access to the Santa's mailroom. So let's see what's happening if we're trying to sign in with Alex Wilbur's account. Okay, here we are at the sign in window as Alex Wilbur. So I need to get his password and sign in. And after completing the MFA, I am in. So let's try to navigate to SharePoint. So here I can see Santa's mailroom. Now let's see if I can get into this. And more information is required. I did not sign in with a FIDO key. So I need to do MFA in order to set up my FIDO key. So I will add my sign-in information. I will pick a security key and add. It's a USB device. I have it here. It's a Phaeton one. I will use this Phaeton key for this one. And I'm all set. My FIDO key is registered. Now I should have access. So now I can sign in with my security key. And here we go, I have access to the Santa's mailroom and I can see all the wish lists. This is perfect. So that was how we did secure the SharePoint site containing all the wish lists. So now I want to look more into the overall tenant security and how we have done this here at the North Pole. Join me. And since we were in the SharePoint admin center, we can start looking at the settings we have done there. So if you look at sharing, you see we have disabled all sharing. So we do not allow sharing from either SharePoint or OneDrive. And we have also enabled Azure AD B2B integration in SharePoint, meaning the users can't share with direct link. We need to create guests in the tenant for sharing. And this is done with this SharePoint script. So we import the PowerShell module and we connect, and then we check the status and we can set it to true. And by checking now, by running this command, we see that this is set to true. So if we want to test this now, verify this with Alex Wilbur's account, we can open SharePoint where we was, and we have this SharePoint wish lists. And if Alex Wilbur is trying to share this one, we see that the annual link is now gone. He can only share with people inside this tenant. And the next thing I have been looking at is the guest account in this tenant. And this is all happening in the Entra admin center. So if I'm looking under identity and external identities, and then external collaboration settings, I can see what guests can do, and I have set this one to the most restrictive one. But the most important one is that no one in the organization can invite guests users, including admins, meaning there should be no guests in this tenant. This is all for the North Pole people. And just like to be sure, under collaboration settings, I have said that allow invitations only to the specific domain, and I have added the domain I'm in control of myself. So there should be no guest accounts here. And if I look in my conditional access policies, I have one conditional access policy for guests, which is blocking. So this one is blocking all guests from connecting to this tenant, just to make sure that they can't do it. And while I'm at my conditional access policies, I have some special conditional access policies for my elves. So if I am looking at those one in particular. So for the elves, there are some rules here. I'm requiring a compliant device. They can't sign in from what device they want. This has to be an onboarding compliant device. And I'm also blocking them from untrusted locations. They can only sign in when they are here at the factory at the North Pole. And since device will be a central part in my CA policies, and the enrollment of them is also then restricted. So if I look at the Windows restriction or the default policy for all users during enrollment, you can see that I'm blocking personal owned devices, and I'm only allowing Windows, Mac OS and iOS, and they need to be onboarded like a corporate device, meaning I have control over my device. I know which devices are in my tenant. And then I have some compliance policies controlling the health state of my devices, and my overall is like mark devices with no compliance policy assigned as not compliant, meaning I know my devices and I know what devices are letting through my conditional access policies. And then I have policies for configuring and making sure my devices are like I want it. In order to be secure, I have update policies ensuring everything is up to date. I have some scripts doing some stuff. I have configuration profiles, and this is for like Mac, and I also have the same for Windows. So I have compliance policies for Windows. I have configuration profiles configuring everything I need. I have some scripts and remediations doing my stuff. I have some update rings based on the Windows auto patch stuff. And I also have stuff in the endpoint security, making sure the antivirus is configured as I want, the encryption is configured as I want it, the firewall is there, the account protection, the attack surface stuff is there. So this will give me the device state I want. And the best part, the prerequisites for this. It's only the Microsoft 365 license. It's as easy as that. Merry Christmas! Yeah, and you can stop playing now, by the way. Okay, mate. Merry Christmas! Thanks.